honest, I've just been taking the stream off.
Yeah, this
off
is
YouTube because I'm lazy.
So what's new? We're live on YouTube.
We're live.
Important, really important to make that clear. Ross, no more insider trading. Like, save that for the after show.
Ross, before you open your mouth, there is a record of proof.
Yeah. Keep the insider trading for the Patreon tier. That's when you get the real good stuff.
Put it behind a paywall. Absolutely.
Fuck me. Oh my god.
Do we want a quiz this evening?
Jesus Christ!
As long as it's not about this fucking movie.
No, of course it would be about this movie. That'd be interesting.
If it's about like knights and squires and jousting,
I was thinking a 13th century French history quiz.
Oh my god!
Amazing. Is it agrarian, Sam, or is it?
It's principally about the monasteries, really. So,
fantastic.
I'm gonna focus on my dissertation.
I'd rather drag my nutsack over broken glass than fucking.
I mean, that's a weird one just to pull out of the middle of.
Yeah, you got that loaded, didn't you, Ross?
Well, I was thinking,
Ross, you can do a 13th century French monastic quiz, or you can drag your balls across broken glass.
Quite
interesting.
I'll take balls over broken glass for 200, please.
Wow.
Well, immediately, like the saying we often say, Dave, is, "Oh, I'd rather shit in my hand than clap." But I felt that wasn't extreme enough of how unappealing that sounded to me. So I had to delve deep in how much I don't want a fucking history test.
Well, tough shit, Ross.
Ross.
Although I can't find any French 13th century history quiz. I can find general. We'll just go with 13th century history. It's fine. Okay. Very good. This is when our history degrees are going to absolutely fail us.
Yes, all of our history degrees.
Yeah.
Performing arts degree.
Oh god, yours is even more useless than ours.
Yeah, I did most of his coursework.
Imagine if I won.
Hey, Dave. Hold on.
I thought we're not doing things where we incriminate one another, Dave.
Hold on.
I'm fairly sure the statute of limitations has elapsed on that, Ross.
Ross, don't worry, I've got this. Dave, so is that the reason you were doing all Ross's coursework? Is that why you didn't do any of your own and failed miserably? Is that right? Is that the connection?
I'll have you find I completed all of my coursework, Sam.
Completed?
Yes, technically completed.
That word is doing an awful lot of heavy lifting. I have to say. Yeah.
If I'd not biffed my dissertation so badly,
why do you qualify it like technically?
Then I might have done better. Actually, on most of the coursework, Sam, probably scored better than you did. Usually.
Yeah, but it's the final score that counts. So
this is the most boring fucking flex that has ever been witnessed.
Yeah, Sam got a slightly better second class degree from a 5th class university than I did.
Yes, me and Joe.
I completed all my coursework. I probably would have got like a better grade if I wasn't watching Rowan Atkinson comedies. So, Dave Newell, Mega Chad.
Yeah, major flex. I was watching Blackadder Goes Forward in 2011.
Oh my god. In the room, Sam. Be in the room.
Love it. Right, should we get on with this good fucking movie?
Let's do it.
Welcome to this podcast where we talk about The Last Duel.
Let's try and be funny.
Are we speaking?
Let's try and be funny about this fucking movie.
Dig deep for this one. All right.
I was.
Sam, if you can laugh about my dying dad, you can laugh about this movie. All right, that's the rule. All right, you see?
That is. There goes the eyebrows.
Exactly.
You're pulling that live on air.
We are live on air. It's fine. None of my family watch this. It's fine.
Oh my goodness.
Oh shit, I think I'm going to say something funny.
Oh god. Something
I need my
funny.
Right, go on. Right, okay. Let's go.
Your glasses like this.
It's the headphones.
I should have put my glasses on.
Like, if this wasn't on video, I would just picture Sammy with those like crescent moon glasses,
Oh, if only interesting.
just resting on the bridge of his nose.
Right, let's go. Let's
You
do
have
this.
to have them on like a rope, you know, like the thing that you can just hang on his chest.
Oh yeah,
all the
that'd be
time.
handy.
That or a monocle, the
Dude,
posh
crisps,
cunt.
the crisp dust, Sam. You ever thought about the crisp dust?
Chris does.
I'll be able to see through those things.
Right, let's go.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Imaginary Movie Podcast. A podcast.
Stop. It's a good start. My fucking audio is not
Classic
working.
stuff, Dave. Go on.
Great.
Don't change a thing. Dave, bubbler. Babe.
Baby. This is a real
The
hotspot film
the
in
microphone
camera
loves
at the
you.
moment.
Oh, yeah, give me that voice.
This is
Making
I
me
just did the stunt and I forgot to put film in the camera.
Yeah, it is literally that. Output device. Okay, right. We're gonna need to clap again. Sorry, because my audio was not
Oh,
working.
you were the worst
Generally.
person. I watched this movie last night, and you were the worst thing that's happened to me this week.
2048.
Hang on, I need to tie my ass open again. You fucking prick.
All right, you just call it time, Ross.
Yeah, 2049.
Oh shit, I'm not looking now. Yeah, got it. It's fine. It's all good. It's all
Nice.
You
Nice,
were
Let's go,
nice,
let's go.
nice,
Okay,
nice.
go,
Were you
go, go,
dragging
go, go.
or were
Ten,
you
ten.
rushing?
No, have the movie. Move on. This is excellent.
Stop living in the past.
It's excellent content.
Well, our
let's-
loyal listeners will be getting a hoot.
Exactly. It's
Of
all
this.
the in references, Sam.
Yeah,
for when
all
we
of
do
us.
put all of our Patreon stuff.
All three of us.
With the loyal listeners. Right, go.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Imaginary Movie Podcast, a podcast where we bravely watch a movie so that you don't have to, and then we talk about it. Hi, I'm Ben Affleck's tangerine goatee, and I'm joined by my two squires.
Well done. Well done.
Oh, I love it. Hear ye, I come bearing a proclamation from our noble king, who has bestowed upon us 3 gracious commands to follow. Number 1, haircuts not involving short at the sides and long at the back are henceforth banned by royal decree. Mullet over. 2, due to
Mullet
constant...
I thought that wasn't
Is
that
it-
pro mullet.
I don't know if that was on purpose or a happy accident.
Yes, it
Like,
was
man,
on
mull
purpose.
that one over.
I'm a comedic genius. Number 2, due to constant fog, we are to take as only a sign of God's displeasure. All subjects are to double their tithe to the church going forward. And finally, all men henceforth shall be required to speak only in a stilted and terse manner, reversing the order of sentences unnecessarily. Anyone who disobeys the edict shall suffer a pain worse than death and be forced to watch 2021's funeral dirge that is The Last Duel, directed by Ridley Scott.
Look, before I get to my bit, I'm just going to say all those 3 were brilliant. Just pick one. Pick one, man.
Not to editorialize.
That was a podcast
But,
in itself.
Thank you.
What that's
I mean,
done is really delayed our intro. Is you doing that and delayed our intro, not Ross stopping the intro to discuss how it delayed the intro, but you delaying the
Sam's
intro.
funny intro podcast.
it's really good. It's really effective podcasting when we analyze.
Shut
the
up, the both of you.
podcasting
Ross,
while we're
go.
podcasting.
And I'm Ross. The penalty for bearing false witness is that you are to be burned alive. It's fucking preferable to this movie, I'll tell you that.
So this week, in case you missed all of that, we watched the 2021. What did you say, Sam? Funeral dirge, which is
Oh,
fair.
fuck me.
Movie, historical drama movie, I believe is the technical genre. Pigeonholing for this movie. The Last Duel, which there's not much dueling in. I mean, what,
There's one duel.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it only references one jewel, which we got. It didn't say collection of jewels. It said the last jewel.
Yeah,
It's at the last of the movie. Done.
yeah. This is
Gladiator without any of the things that make that movie good, isn't it?
Yeah, and lots of things added that make it worse as well. Let's not forget all the things added that make it worse. This is a film. Well, first off, like, content warning. This film's full of rape, and that's really fun. That's just great.
So it's the central premise of the movie.
If you're
which
bugged
is-
about that, then just don't watch it.
Content warning, by the way, folks.
Yeah,
trigger
exactly.
warning,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
because we're going to touch on it because it, like I said, it's the central thing of
It's
this
hard to
movie.
avoid it.
But mostly it's nothing to do with that. Mostly it's these fucking men walking around being pissed off at each other because it's so hard being a fucking rich white guy in the past.
No, it's these men walking around being pissed off at each other, Sam, because the script says so.
Oh,
Like, I know we talk about this all the time. I've never been less convinced that any of these characters feel anything. And that's not because the casting is bad. I think these are all good actors. I wouldn't even say it's a direction. They're just not written to, like, there's no scenes where there's any antagonism.
yeah.
I feel, and it's a bit early to be doing this, but I feel I need to come clean with you guys, and I've got a confession.
How much of this movie did you not watch?
Oh no! I watched the whole thing, and what I will say, I'll preface this by saying I think it pays adage to the saying, keep your expectations low and you'll never be disappointed. Because I actually ended up like interested in this, and I was like, oh, this isn't. Wow, Dave actually didn't do that bad on this one. Like I would watch this over High Rise, for example. And
Really?
I cannot believe I genuinely can't, because the thing is, like, this was your suggestion, Dave, and no recriminations here. But when you were watching it, Dave, you're like, Jesus Christ, this movie's dull. I'm like, oh my god,
I was.
I'm like, oh my god. I was like, I am not looking forward to this.
I suggest we watch this. This is good. That's a good point, Ross. There were bits about this movie I liked, which we will get into, and I know Sam didn't like any of it, so that's fine. We'll also get into that. But the reason we did this is because we are pursuing the goal of exploring some of the big box office flops, the box office bombs of history. We did John Carter recently, which is you missed that, Ross, but I mean, good
box
on you
office
for missing
bombs
that.
Yeah, thanks. Box office bombs that reviewed well somehow.
I don't even think that was the
no,
but this
just
was
box
the idea
office
behind
bombs.
this was I was looking into movies that had lost because John Carter wasn't reviewed well at all. Like that was not.
Is this why you've been finding it so difficult to find them?
This is why I've been.
Do you think we wanted you to watch? Wanted you to pick a good movie?
Fucking, I was like, this is the Sphinx. I cannot fucking.
Such an idiot.
That's why I was like, this is interesting. Wow.
Well,
this was struggling.
Right, yeah. So this is on paper, and my wonderful wife suggested this, and I was like, "Wow, it's a great idea for a fantastic. We could do an entire podcast like that." But the problem is,
do your own podcast, Nicola.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking you watch all these shit films. Because when I described this movie to her, she was like, "Nah, I'm not watching that." I was like, "Fuck it."
Oh,
exactly.
Oh, you're not keen.
Look what you have unleashed.
Well, the reason I picked this movie because I hadn't seen it. Again, I think we've all said if I'd seen this movie before for some reason, and I wouldn't have sat through it. I wouldn't have sat through this movie because it's so tedious. Not even because it's like got the whole rape scene in it, which is very uncomfortable. We'll get into that, but like because it's boring. It's so dull. Like the first hour of this movie, I was like having to actively stop myself looking at my phone. But because I picked it because it's a Ridley Scott movie. Ridley Scott is an auteur director, and we'll get into that fucking shit show of a terminology as well. He's a director who's done lots of good movies. He's done good historical action drama movies. And this was a movie about knights and the fighting, and I was like, oh, that sounds like it's interesting. It's medieval France, probably high production values. It cost 100 million to make.
Yeah.
And it made like 30 million at the box office or something daft like that. This was
I think this is a technical loss of this is a technical box office bomb because it was released between 2020 and 2022. Yeah. I think actually on that list of box office bombs on Wikipedia, there's loads of examples of stuff in the early 2020s and I'm like, no, that shouldn't be there. It's a bomb because it cost loads to make, and then they released it on a free or near free streaming service that was £6 for a month. Like, we can't judge this, but I think this film, if it had been released in cinemas like it was intended, and when people still went to cinemas, I'd still believe in my heart that this would have been a bomb. It was.
This was released in cinemas, and they were open. This was after the bulk of the pandemic. This was after the main pandemic 12 months.
But viewership had gone down.
Apparently, the reason that this movie absolutely fucking just no one watched it, apart from the fact that I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going to the cinema, it's to have a good time, and nobody's going to watch this and having a good time. So I think partly it's that, but also it's to do with I can't remember what the production company that made this was. Basically, while this was being filmed, I think Disney acquired. Is it 20th Century Fox?
Fox, yeah.
Oh yeah.
They acquired 20th Century Fox while this was in production, and basically this was one of those things where they were
Had to
already
finish
committed
it
to
off.
releasing this,
Yep.
but it wasn't something they were behind at all because they'd acquired Fox, so they had to finish it and release it because they had a contract.
Yeah.
But they obviously
Obligated.
looked at it and said, "We're Disney. We really don't honestly this
Yeah.
like period drama about a rape trial, which is what it is, and a fight at the end of it that's boring as sin, and like in 2021, like a real." This movie hates women as well. We should get into in a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah. Well,
Like,
hold
this
on.
movie is not.
Well,
This is not their. You know, Disney quite rightly said this is probably not like.
yeah.
This is not going to do well in today's environment. You know,
Yeah.
because also it's made by an 84-fucking-year-old man who's probably still thinks it's 1974. You know,
Oh, absolutely. But let's get back to my self-flagellation for saying that I found this somewhat like I enjoyed watching this because I am embarrassed because that whilst I was watching this
You
before,
shouldn't be
Sam,
embarrassed, Ross. You shouldn't be embarrassed.
no. This is a really well made movie. I'll give them that. Like
Mm.
it's beautiful to look at. Turn the
Yeah,
sound
I mean-
off. It's probably all right.
Yeah,
Turn the sound off. Cut whole
Fast
portion of the
forward
middle out.
85% of it. It's great.
Now, I will say, like, when I started this movie, I thought, oh, I'll catch up on a bit of my book as well. I'll just listen. But I found myself, like, I'd read a paragraph and then, like, oh shit, we're in a battle. I should probably pay attention. And then there'd be a bit of talking and go back.
Is this
No,
how you
it's
watch
not-
all your movies?
Now it's another battle. What is
This
happening?
explains a
And I was
lot
like,
about
I better
your
pay
like,
attention to this
comprehension in
shit.
movies, Ross. If you're trying to read a fucking book while watching the movie, well, that's not even like looking at the trivia on your phone
You
or
accuse
reading
us.
up on the
You
cast
accuse us
or
of
texting
being.
us. You're sat fucking reading War and Peace while you're watching a movie.
You accuse us of being fucking like work shy socialists because we're
Absolutely.
texting while watching and you're sitting fucking digging into the next Dan Brown.
What are
like
you
what's
reading,
going-
Ross? Like, this is
Listen.
another thing we can attack you on. What are you reading?
Oh, I'll tell you later.
Tell me now.
No, I'll absolutely tell you
Oh my
later.
God.
Tell me
Well,
now. Just what you're embarrassed about, Ross.
Now
You were
it's
embarrassed
even
about
worse.
enjoying this movie, and now you're embarrassed about what
Just
book you're
make
reading.
just make something out, Ross. It's fine.
The Art of War by Sun
Thank-
Tzu.
There we go.
Dave.
really long read, is it?
Can't put it down.
Right, but look, but your point about being embarrassed about this. So now, as is always
Why are
the
you
case.
holding a light bulb then?
But let me tell you why I'm embarrassed because I'll
Okay,
tell you
go
why I
on,
like
go on.
it. I'll tell you why I like
That's my idea.
it. And it's because once I saw, once you go through Matt Damon's story, and then you get to, have we even done a plot synopsis yet? By the way, let's get to a plot synopsis in a second.
Ah, fuck
But
it. Google it.
free
Listener,
form. But once you go
dick.
through Matt Damon's thing, and then it's like, okay, now it's the truth according to Legree. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay,
Mhm.
from his perspective, Sam pinching his nose. Oh my
Keep
god,
going.
you're such a
We
condescending.
must.
cunt.
I'm not condescending you. I'm condescending movie. Keep going.
No,
Power.
but I do like that sort of thing. I like I'm not saying it does it particularly well, but I do like stories where objective truth isn't objective, and I enjoy that kind of setting. So when it does it with Legree and then it does it with Marguerite, I like that sort of stuff. Plus, it meant once I've watched Matt Damon, okay, I know what the movie is now. And now we're just going to see it from these people's perspective. So it felt like instead of watching a 2.5 hour film, Dave, it felt like I was watching, 120, 140, maybe 100, let's say 150. I was watching a 50-minute episode 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So it was able to break it down a little bit for me.
Okay, yeah, and actually, that like Rashomon story structure is interesting, and you think,
I
okay,
enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay, right.
I didn't
I'm with
dislike
you there.
that. Go on. I didn't
No,
dislike
it's
that
fine.
at all. However, I think they fucked the order up. Like, I want to say this right off the bat. The boner that Ridley Scott has for Matt Damon.
Poor choice of words, but okay.
No, I mean that. That is what I mean.
That's intentional.
Right?
Visceral.
This fucking maniac wanted this to be a Matt Damon and Ben Affleck movie in the year 2021.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
not
hold on,
1999.
hold
No,
on.
not 1999. In 2021.
they wrote it. They wrote so Damon wrote. I assume the character. They wrote the first two takes. So Matt Damon's character and Adam Driver's
Oh.
character. They wrote those bits, and then they had. I mean, like rightly, let's maybe not get
Chastised too hard.
Yeah, they had Nicole Hollofencer in who wrote the point of view from the lady whose name I can't remember. Yeah, Jodie Comer's the actor. So this is their movie, really. And Ridley Scott's here doing his very impressive spectacle, and it looks great, and it's interesting shots and all that stuff. And if you could only keep your eyes open, you'd be able to see them. But really, this is a fucking, Matt Fleck vehicle.
Exactly. Whereas it should be.
It's not that funny, Rob.
I know it's because in Batman, it was Pat Fleck. Sorry, go on.
The problem is that this movie should be a Jodie Comer vehicle. Like, the first story we get should be from her POV, and that should be the main story. That should be our protagonist. That should be the person that we're rooting for. And you can have Matt Damon be this because he's a one-dimensional character who has no personality. You can have that when he's just the husband, and like you can have Adam Driver be a bit more of like a villainous scumbag because it's from her point of view. But hers is the last story to be told, isn't it? And so it feels like
they spend over an hour. They spend an hour and 40 minutes, 20 minutes on Matt Damon and Driver's point of view. And then they grace us.
Spend time, like maybe 40 minutes of.
They catch us up on actually the experiences of the men. Now you can say blah blah.
They still spend 20 minutes fucking around. Like she goes to visit the horse, she's getting the rent, and I'm like, what are we doing? How is this related? She's getting the rent. Why do I need to know that she's a good custodian? Why is that part of this movie?
When you message metaphor.
I was
on a call.
When the black horse comes in,
off my camera,
and the white, and tries to stand it. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Right, I need to focus my thoughts. I need to focus.
But hang on. No, I want to go back to Dave's point because Dave, you were saying about the order and how you think they fucked it up. And whilst I don't disagree with your logic, I do disagree that the order is incorrect. And the reason I think that is because when you have Matt Damon first, and he's portrayed as the standard hero guy, doting on his wife, stands up for what is right, blah 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 blah. And then once you have Marguerite, it's so easy to have that turn. And I think, because you see, he's not the doting husband. He's an arrogant cunt who doesn't, pay attention to her whatsoever. He's after vanity, and pride. But that turn, there's a better payoff having it with Matt Damon first and then Marguerite. Because if you just paint him as a cunt, anything he does after that, you're like, oh, well, no, he's a cunt. But you want that turn to go, oh, actually, this guy is a prick too.
I completely agree when the movie is about Matt Damon, really. Like, if the central core... sorry, what I'm trying to say is, as the movie's shot as it is now, you're completely right. It makes sense because it's then about, oh, actually, Matt Damon's perspective. And but the problem is that you need to fucking start again. You just start again and just have a normal sequential thing. Cut fucking 40 minutes off this goddamn movie.
Yeah.
Christ. And then what you can do is you can really get into Comer's character's story and be able to explore the very obvious and well-intentioned, I think, attempt at trying to draw parallels between how it was in the 14th century for women to stand up and say, this has happened to me. And and then to have the comparison to now, where it's almost literally the same things that come out of people's mouths that trying to say, well, you fancied him, didn't you? So where we go?
Well, in this movie, they say, it's the, and again, like to the movie, this movie's credit, I do think that somebody's obviously thinking about that when he says, "Oh, did you smile at him?" And it's like, or they're doing trial, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Well, did you smile at him? You fucking
said he
whore,"
was handsome.
basically.
You said
And
he was
they're
handsome.
like,
Yeah.
"You said he was handsome." So obviously, the implication is that she was asking for it. And I do think you're right, Sam. I think stuff like that is very clever. But then this movie really isn't interested in saying that any of that is wrong. That it's really not interested in saying women should be treated better, because the upshot of this is that we have this big fight and she doesn't get burnt at the stake, thank God.
Mm.
But no one really learns the lesson. Like, we get the
No.
post credit saying, well, Matt Damon went off and died in the crusade and she lived another 30 years, but we don't have any of that information because she was a woman.
Again, see, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because, but for the period time it's based in, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. It's not Prince Charming. You don't get happy endings, and the best you could hope for is her husband goes off and dies. So she's not that.
100%. Like, there's not. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna go back to one of your points as well, Sam, about saying, like, you could edit this much better, like make it more sequential, and you could reduce the runtime. I actually think that some of the nuance as well, like, maybe not 100% sequential, but like definitely, yeah, there's a middle part to a middle ground, even is the term to reach. Because what I love, and maybe you could say it's subtle, or maybe you could say they don't do a good enough job of pointing things out. But what I really, really liked about, like, watching the different sort of perspectives, rather, is seeing the difference in those people's perspectives. So, like, a great example for me was that scene where Legree and Gusto, whatever.
Say the actor's names, Russ.
Jeff Boyardee.
Isn't that the bad guy from Beauty and the Beast? Another problematic movie. Gaston.
This piece of shit. Yeah. Doesn't he tell her that that women shouldn't read? Is that the right movie?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
just like this movie.
That scene where they it seems like they've made amends, and Matt Damon invites Marguerite to basically kiss the fella, and like from Matt Damon's perspective, it's a peck between the two of them, no problem. From Adam Driver's perspective, there's a smooch, and she sort of locked eyes with him. But from Marguerite's perspective, he's gone for the smooch, and she's basically like looking away, not trying to engage with this guy at all.
Yeah.
Now that's one of the more subtle examples. More obvious examples. But that's what I really loved about it, and it's those.
Well, the movie says
differences
again,
in perception.
Like, someone says to Matt Damon, they basically like, listen, this isn't about rape. This is somebody damaged your property. Is I think almost literally the line, and you're like,
because that was the reality.
That's literally how it was for millennia
until the 70s. Like we're not.
Women in Switzerland couldn't vote until the 70s.
Literally, yeah.
Literally.
Let's stay on this plot structure, and because I think it is. Like, I really appreciate the attempt. I appreciate the attempt of trying to do what they were trying to do, of trying to show the different perspectives. And I think generally, like, we can talk about this, the rape scene later on. Jesus, but it's all presented in the same manner. Like, it's very clear what happened. It was not, even from Adam Driver's perspective, it was not consensual. And so the movie isn't almost like. It isn't using the truth from different perspectives to change the facts, but what it's doing is it's adding a little bit of subtlety and spinning it. Now, I think that's fine, right? But you have to make the things in between, the subtle moments of sliding doors, interesting. I need to be able to stay awake so I can notice that the way that she's talking to Adam Driver in just before the scene is slightly different each time, and we get again, let's talk about it afterwards. But I just think like, fine, if you want to do interesting stuff in your movie, but you have to give me a reason to give a shit. And when it comes to the characterization, especially Matt Damon's character, who is so miscast. Did anyone ever think he was a French?
This accent he's doing,
the hair,
the mullet, this fake beard, because he couldn't grow a beard.
It was all English accents, right?
Well, Matt Damon's not doing an English accent.
I just think it's like, why are we? I don't know what I think. I just think there's a point in this where you think there is a good movie in here somewhere, but the problem is it's almost just too wrapped up in its own sensibilities that.
Well, it's too interested in the in the the feel of it, and like you said, something about the backwards talking and the thee and thou and this is like a kind of a historical trope that exists in loads of like historical movies that like. When you look at It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they have the back in time episode and they're pretending to be British and they're doing the silly things, and it's like, yeah, there's a reason that exists is because you've got all these court transcripts and all this stuff survived and fucking Shakespeare, and all of this stuff, which leads you to believe that people spoke in a certain way, and they did at court on the official fucking record. But like this movie would posit that that's how a husband and wife would talk to each other. Oh, my dearest wife. Could you pass the ketchup?
Could you please?
They have gone cold, terribly cold.
If it does not inconvenience you, Tother, I will,
wife, light of my life,
express my desire.
You guys know what I'm going to say,
it's
right?
Like,
yeah, go on.
That's exactly how you sound to me. Exactly. That's exactly how you sound.
Great.
Such a xenophobe.
Ross's fucking inherent racism. I mean, justified, but inherent racism aside,
Warranted.
But put that on one side for now. This movie kind of isn't interested in like, and I really would have liked it. Really would have helped because like Matt Damon is a good actor generally. I mean, in other things, he's good. Interstellar, he's good in that. The Martian, he's good in that. Like, he's a good actor. You kind of need to give him like, he needs to be a little bit comedic. He needs to be kind of like affable and personable.
Yeah,
I think Driver does a reasonable job at this cold kind of like sex pest and all of the other things he's doing in this movie. But I really would have liked a scene of like almost anyone in this movie apart from fucking Goldmember over there, fucking Goldmember Fleck, and his sex palace. Like, I really would have liked a scene of anyone but him. What is he? He's the only. He is off script, and we'll circle back.
I have to say, is like, I imagine like in a boardroom of like producers and stuff, and they're like, okay, so what comes to mind when you think French? Orgies? That's right. And they're like, so this guy, he's going to be all about the orgies, right?
With onions hanging around his neck.
A beret. Berets didn't exist back then. Stop stifling my creativity.
See, the only right. So yes,
I'm not. Just let me finish.
Yeah.
I would have liked some scenes where these characters are enjoying each other's company. Like, I know Matt Damon saves Adam Driver's life, and that's why they're allegedly friends. Can I not have a scene of them having a beer and talking about how wars are shit or what they're going to do? Like, in 20 seconds, or a scene between Matt Damon and Jodie Comer where like they're just getting along and being nice to each other, and he's not lying awkward next to her. Did you achieve orgasm, my dearest wife?
I say, darling.
How was your
the little death?
What he says is, "How was your little death, my wife? Did you have a little death?
Was it productive?" He says, "Was it productive?" like it's a meeting.
That's what it reminded me of.
And it's like, but none of that is like an intimate moment. And by stripping all of the intimate moments out of this movie, I don't give a shit about any of these characters because they're all inhuman robots.
Yeah. But, like, I think Jodie Comer's character, I think the performance is about is a thing that carries this movie.
Her accent's the only one that's acceptable. That's for damn sure.
She carries this. She's good at accents, though, isn't she? From Killing Eve, she's good at accents. No, it's not what I was going to say. She's really good in this movie.
Jodie Comer, she can do an accent. That's the only thing I thought when I was watching.
Said with such assertion. No, she's really good in this film. I think without her, without this presence and this performance, and again those subtle changes to her demeanor as we go through the different takes, I think we'd be looking at a film of just like, what are we doing? There is no relatable, emotionally like available characters for us to latch onto to be like. Problem is, they just punt that until the fucking end of the film. So we're left with just these.
Yeah, you put the best bit of the movie right at the end, and you don't.
Right at the end. So we're left with these hulks of meat from Adam Driver.
Matt Damon is a hunk of meat in this movie, isn't he?
And
like a disgusting, hairy, being dropped on the floor,
scarred guy. Yeah.
Basically, all just being men and just dick waving for the entire time, and you know, the concept of honor and all that stuff is all about their honor and what they want to achieve, and like, do we understand what Jodie Comer's character wants? What does she want? Because does she want to marry this guy? No, not really. Her dad makes her do it. Does she want to have a baby? Kinda, but she's also like Matt
Eventually,
Damon
yeah.
wants her to do it. Does she want to? Does she want to collect rent from people? And oh yes, a little bit.
Don't know, but this movie spends a lot of time on that.
No, but she's making decisions. She says, no, use the horses because we're not going to have any. She counteracts her husband and says, actually, yeah, I'm going to do things my way.
Well,
For about 10
overwhelmingly,
minutes,
by the end of this movie,
at
she
the
wants
end
to
of the
live
film,
is the only thing that, like, because she realizes, and this is the, and again, like, this is based on a real historical event, and I fucking hate that about movies. Like, fucking
Yeah.
write a movie. Anyway, get Sam's bot to write a movie.
Chat GPT,
it'll
do it. It'll do it.
Do it. But like, her thing is, like, at the end of this movie, they're going to fight this duel to the death, and she's like, oh well, that seems extreme. I mean, yeah, I want this guy to be punished because he did this horrible thing to me, but like, and then someone's like, oh yeah, and of course, if your husband loses, we'll burn you at the stake, of course. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? I didn't read the Apple fine print in the user agreement.
What?
The
iTunes agreement.
iTunes fucking user agreement. I'm sorry, yep. And if your husband loses the duel to the death, he'll be dead, of course. And then we'll have to kill you, of course, because you'll have been proven wrong.
Oh, and by the way, Matt Damon knew about this the entire time and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a cunt. We know he's a cunt.
Everyone in this movie is a cunt, Ross.
Right. So that's fine, right? That's fine. We can make a story. We can invent a construct that gives us a chance to explore the injustices that this woman and all women had to suffer during. And it is based on a real thing. It is based on like the reality of if she stood up and said, "This guy did something awful to me. He raped me, and I need justice." She would, in the 14th century, take serious slack. Like she's not going to be. She's going to be disgraced just by doing that. Just because we see it in the response of Matt Damon's mum saying, "Oh yeah, that happens all the time. We just moved on because it." And again,
if you tell people, then you are this is historically true. You are the damaged goods.
Yeah,
like they talk about in the movie all the time.
And it's true now as well. That's the problem. Perception remains. And again, it's great. Let's exploring how basically we have not moved on. There are still people who say that
still parallels,
cannot happen in that circumstance. There's still people, and it's and
I don't think the movie does a good enough job at maybe like hammering that nail in.
No,
with the whole like, what do you mean I'll be killed? Well, like I agree with you, Sam. If that was something that she went into and that was made clear of like, if he loses this, they'll burn you at the stake. And if that was her resolute saying,
she knew that
I've got to stand up for myself, then it's suddenly that's so much more powerful rather than this woman. And I know it's the 14th century, and
no, but they didn't know
no agency, but
there was nothing written about her. So,
but the movie moves to rob this woman of any like agency at the end of this film because basically once again her husband and men have put her in this horrible situation and she really doesn't have a say.
Yeah, when she even says, "Now I have my son, I wish I'd never said anything." Now, interesting, and again an interesting like exploration, or at least a thought. At least there's a thought there of the toll that it would take for anyone, even now, to stand up and say, well, actually, this has happened to me and I want something done. Like, it's not an easy thing. And so I imagine, again, we just have to imagine that there would be points where you regret that, where you think, oh, fucking hell, I wish I just shut up and not, because of the trauma that society would place upon you.
Yeah. I mean, to quote like a completely different movie, but like it sums it up brilliantly. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And that burden of proof is on you. And so like, yeah, you can, and you might be able to make a compelling case. But in this case, if it ain't compelling enough, you are literal toast.
Yeah. And by the way, your proof is your husband kills the guy, and that means it's the will of God.
God.
Well,
Which
this
is
is the
not-
interesting thing about this movie, and I think the reason this movie was made was Game of Thrones. Now, so this is a real thing, obviously, like a duel to the Game of Thrones, like I demand trial by combat. It was kind
Yes.
of a real thing for a little while, and this was the last time that the King of France basically said, "Okay, we're going to have this thing," and then they went, "Well, actually, no, that's a bit silly because we've got legal courts and things. Why would we need to have two people fight to the death? I mean, it's very entertaining, etc." Anyway, like, so that's interesting of itself as a cultural thing from our time, harkening back to there because of the popularity of Game of Thrones and people saying, "Oh, trial by combat, doesn't that sound a great idea?" And well, not really. I mean,
I mean, they stopped
so
doing it
it's
in the
kind of cool
14th
from that
century.
point of view.
So, like,
We stopped doing it in the 14th century because we decided it was not only was it barbaric, but it was stupid and it didn't
yeah,
really,
it's a bit
didn't really
silly.
resolve any of these
It's a bit
crimes.
silly, isn't it? It's a bit silly. This,
Yeah. We were hanging people fucking less than 100 years ago. So it's not the killing we're worried about. It's more the fact that this is not the correct legal process. You know?
Because obviously there were duels after this, but this is like the last legal duel,
like
or whatever,
sanctioned to
by the
resolve a
king.
case of innocence or
yeah.
guilt. And the idea being that God, God will stand with, it's a proper religious nonsense thing. God will stand with the person who is right.
It's like the witches. If they
float,
If they drown, then they're innocent.
then exactly, yeah, because they've been exactly. It's the same medieval logic. Now, again,
Well, it's the same logic of men oppressing women. Absolutely, Sam.
yeah. I'm not opposed. I am not opposed to diving into this as a subject, mate. It's if you want to have a movie about dueling, cool. Okay,
awesome.
I'm interested. Now we do start well. I do like the beginning of this film where we get they're all watching the peasants and it's the siege of whatever the city was. Interesting, fine. 100 Years War, blah 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 blah. It's all fun. I mean, the violence it's very violent now. To be honest, I was a bit like, okay, I don't want to.
I kind of
I
liked
wasn't
it.
that bothered.
It's just a personal thing for me. I'm just a little bit, as I'm getting older, I'm just like, I don't want to see
Got a bit more
someone's
queasy about it. Yeah.
eye getting popped. Like,
I mean, I do. If
I know
it's
you
done
do.
well.
Yeah.
No.
But-
What I mean
Go on.
is that I agree that sometimes it feels a bit. I'm not going to sit and watch a Saw movie, with someone with a bunch of needles in their face, because that's a bit. It's just too much. But this is kind of like a more realistic, and we have the technology and the stunts and the CG and stuff to make it look really good. I think a lot of the fight scenes, especially the duel at the end, I think that visually they're quite impressive. We don't get a lot of battle scenes in this. I would have maybe liked one or two more
this is my
actual
point.
fights.
And this is my point. It's called a duel. It's called the Last Duel. And what do we get?
I know.
We get what?
It's called The Last Walk Down a Hallway.
We get 3 scenes. We get 3 scenes of like warfare, which I actually we haven't had like a good historic warfare movie like that.
Gladiator.
Gladiator, Game of Thrones probably covers some of it, but they cheaped out a little bit. Look, what's his face? Lannister has fallen asleep. Excellent. We don't have to film it. So like that's fine. But as you say, Dave, this film is mostly just fucking walking around cold Irish castles, and like
which is fine.
It's not fine.
It would be fine, Sam, if the dialogue was engaging. If they had spun, and it's kind of the thing that annoys me about this movie, because we talked about how like the way that it's built and the sort of the way they've done the 3 little acts and the interwinding from different perspectives, and it's obviously different shots of people acting slightly differently. I think that's really cool.
The fun though, like
but what I'm saying, Ross, is that it lacks. Like for me, there's no mystery in this movie. I really would have liked like a bit, not ambiguity about what was going on, but maybe like because Jodie Comer's thing is last, and that could maybe settle all the arguments about what's going on. But maybe have me wonder actually who is the arsehole between Matt Damon and Adam Driver. Like maybe because I've seen both of their points of view, and maybe from then I could be thinking, well, actually, I don't know which of them is the bad guy, and like. Obviously, the rape complicates things, but like, there's no thread of mystery here, really. It seems like the movie's just sort of trudging through the material to get to the ending, to be like, well, we've done the film, and it's just there's not enough nuance in the performances for me to be like, well, I wonder why he said that. I wonder why they've done that. There's not quite enough of that to engage me, which is why I was so hellishly bored.
It becomes a soap opera, doesn't it? I mean, that's really what it was. It was a very expensive.
And most soap operas are a little bit more exciting than this.
Yeah, so Ross, like, when you're going through this and you're enjoying
reading your book.
Yeah, you enjoy.
No, that's like I got maybe like 10 minutes in. I was like, I'm gonna have to put this.
Hey guys, great movie. I only read 4 chapters of my book while I watched this. Fantastic movie. 2 thumbs up from me.
Multitasking, unbelievable.
I give this 2 bookmarks up.
I can't send 2 text messages during a workday because I can't multitask. I can sit and read a fucking novel while I'm watching the TV.
Yeah. So
back to
Ross,
your question, Sam.
Well, what you're watching this, and I do get like the comparison between the different takes is interesting, but in between that and in between like the points where we do have the crossover, I mean, what are you interested in? I'm genuinely asking because I'm sitting there looking at the screen and going, so. We've got Ben Affleck just being horrible and like, I don't want to look at him.
Ben Affleck, the Count of Orgy Manor.
First of all, let me go on back sort of. So, but with Ben Affleck, like I said earlier, in his episode, I'll call it, he isn't horrible. He's a man with honor. He's an attentive husband. He cares about his people.
Damon.
Huh?
You mean Matt Damon?
Didn't I say Matt?
You said Affleck's fine. Carry on, Damon. Yeah, go on.
Oh shit! Sorry, whoops. Yeah, but yeah,
the same.
I'm pretty confused. I was like, good husband who cares about his people. He's having orgies the entire movie.
And and during his bit, he's on about taxis. Like, oh, I don't have it. The people have gone, workforce, etc. And it's like, can't do this. Now, what's really interesting is, I'm going to go a roundabout way in that. Later during Marguerite's episode, like you guys mentioned before that episode where she's taking the taxes. Now, they don't hit you over the head with
taxes in 14th
century but they don't hit you over the head with it. But one of the peasants says, "Oh, this is blast months as well," and so Matt Damon didn't collect it. So it supports the point again that he isn't doing what he was supposed to. Like Matt Damon's character is saying that the whole world's against him. But he's not doing what he should be fucking doing. And if he was, it supports more that Matt Damon, again, has his flaws. But and then going to sort of Adam Driver's bit, apart from the crossover like you referenced, Sam, you come to see how Adam Driver's character sort of managed to elevate himself. And it wasn't through, nefarious deeds or conniving or secrecy or something like that.
He was he's a brown noser, doesn't he? Basically,
yeah, exactly, and that he's pouring poison in his ear, like bad mouthing him, and he's not like, and it's the opposite. He actually talks great about him. He's actually up until the rape scene, he's actually a brilliant friend, and he supports him and he stands by him. But you don't see that, and all you see is like Matt Damon saying he's an absolute cunt. But you come to see how actually this guy, Adam Driver's character is actually. He's pretty wronged, and when it comes to the rape, then he's an absolute colossal prick. But so it helps. It's not just the discrepancies, but it's really satisfying to see how the characters can have a perception of one another. And there was one thing you mentioned as well, Sam, that I remembered when you said that for the rape scene, Adam Driver's and Marguerite's sort of perception of the scene isn't all that different, and you're right. But there's a scene later, and I don't want to sort of misstep in how I describe this. But there's a scene. No, genuinely, I'm not joking about this. But there's a scene later where
I remember the line. That's all.
Okay, go ahead.
Where he's talking to the Count, and he says, "What is it true?" And he says, "Well, we had sex, but like." They'll resist a bit, don't they?
Was against the will. Well, she said no as much as she had to. She's a lady, and I'm like, there it is, there it is. Yeah. And so in his mind, that's why he's like, no, I didn't rape her. How could I, a handsome devil as I, rape a woman?
I did notice in his perception of the rape scene. We should talk about the rape scene next. That there were like just the tiniest little suggestion of giggles,
and moans. Yep.
Yeah. And she was very clearly saying no. I mean, no. But
But in his thing, yeah.
there were those little dashes of again. When we have
But again,
have things
sorry, Sam, to
happening
interrupt you. I'll
Go on,
let
go
you
on.
get to your point in a second. But again, this is striking. You know, you and Dave both mentioned how it draws parallels with like current day, where basically people like, if you come forward, you're fucked. And even like, you know, people, you know, like Adam Driver's character, like, oh no, it wasn't rape. Yeah, she said no, but you know, no means yes, and all that. There,
Should've
shite.
been
You know
it.
what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
misogyny, pure and simple, isn't it?
Oh,
Like,
100%. Sorry, Sam. Go ahead.
Well, the two scenes,
Mhm.
I got to say again, fast forward them. I'm just
I
like,
agree with you there. I agree.
I'm just like,
not. No.
you know what?
they're really
the
uncomfortable.
first one I did. The first one I was, because I was just what I thought fine. The second one I was like, nah, I'm done. Nope.
It's really
the-
uncomfortable, but
Two
do you not
things,
think
though,
that
two
obviously
things.
it's meant to be?
Yeah, but just, you know what? We don't need to see this, and it's the same
Mm.
principle that good horror movies the lion is that the suggestion is much scarier, much more impactful, and focusing on the impact on Jodie Comer's character
Mm.
would be more would give us such a better understanding of what happened to her. Like if we just we have the scene where he closes the door and then it's the more, you know, it's afterwards and she's lying on the bed and we see her shocked expression and all this stuff. Like I think it's so it's not even insensitive, which it maybe is, but it's more about like it's so lacking in artistry. I think to be
Well,
just to be graphically shown us that.
just to provide a counterpoint to that, Sam, because I don't disagree at all. I think this is quite an uncomfortable, hard to watch scene that you certainly didn't want to watch twice. But I think that, and this movie I don't think is good enough to justify it. But I think that in a more competent movie, I think it's important to have this scene for
I
exactly
agree.
the reason that you're saying, because you kind of like you need to
Yeah.
force the viewer to come to terms with actually, and the fact that it's the same scene. Actually, this is what happens, and it's wrong, and like, and it is mundane, and it is like, you know, it's not some like nefarious vampire dragging someone into the darkness. It's normal people doing normal things, you know, in a senseless way. And I know, and I get that it's uncomfortable to watch. And maybe in this movie, like you said, because the rest of it's such a wet blanket, a wet fart of a movie. But I do think that sometimes in a movie that's trying to say something about rape or something like this, you kind of maybe do need to shine a light on it and force the viewer to like confront it in a way, more of a way. And again, it's uncomfortable, and I wouldn't want to watch it at all. But like, I think if it was trying to say something more concrete, you kind of do want to have it on screen.
I think that's a very important point, and I think you've clarified it in my mind actually, because it's not necessarily.
You're not wrong. You aren't wrong at all.
No, it's fine. No, no.
whatsoever.
I think I'm completely. I think the problem I have with it is you're right. Sometimes we need to understand the impact this has, and we need to understand how horrible, and you know, like especially as men. Here we go. Three white guys talking about fucking Jesus.
No, what the fuck?
It's okay, women. We've got this.
No, but what I'm saying is
we don't. We absolutely don't. But
what
we're aware we don't.
That's the joke.
Yeah, as three men, it's important that we are
sarcasm's difficult
every now and again reminded of the impact of this. Like it's horrible shit. It's horrible shit, and it happens every day. And we need to guard against it. We need to be the ones who stand up and say,
yeah.
Number one, I'm not going to do that. Number two, I'm going to make
be,
sure that my friends aren't going to fucking do that, because I'm going to peer pressure
them. We should confront the uncomfortable truths in society and the uncomfortable things that happen. Not in every film, not in everything that we watch.
But back to your point,
but like sometimes we should be forced to confront that and realize it.
But back to your point is that you're right. You're absolutely right. And the reason that I didn't want to do this is because this movie does not earn it. It does not earn and does not like. It does not. It doesn't give us. I don't think it has the right almost to be doing this twice. To be front loading it with loads of fucking man problems, and then saying, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna have a couple of rape scenes in there as well.
It's to
And good
have
luck.
it, and then to have the female lead be the afterthought of the movie as well.
Completely.
It kind of feels like having
that
cake
feels
it
wrong.
in a lot of ways.
A
Of
good
like, let's have
insight,
this
Dave.
shocking scene where critics are going to talk
Good
about
point.
our movie as like addressing this hot button issue and like bringing it to the forefront and making it a conversation that we are still having, because it's important to continue to talk about, you know, sexual assault is a thing that happens all the time, and we shouldn't ever forget that, you know. Because then you have it being something like in 14th century France where you can't fucking talk about it or you get burnt at the stake, you know, like
100%.
so it is
And
important.
if
Like you said, this movie just doesn't give two shits. This movie hates women. I said that when I was watching
Oh,
it. I was like,
yeah, you did.
this movie does not like this. This is it could
I think
it
it's
could be
I think
made
it's
by a load of
two.
fucking white men.
I think it's two men. I think it's two men, and then they brought in a woman to do the you know the woman's
Which I
the
think is
woman's
why
part.
we like the Jodie Comer stuff better, as
Yeah.
well as her being probably a better dramatic actor.
Because it
than
has authenticity, and it's like, actually, you know what, guys, be an executive producer on this movie and use your power in Hollywood to back it. Because Ben Affleck said he thinks this is a feminist movie, and I think, well, you know, there's maybe a thought
could be. I think there's an edit
in
of
a
this movie
different,
that could be a
but
feminist
because you
movie.
wrote it, and you've got Ridley, and again, there's nothing wrong. We're not attacking all men here. as is what seems to happen whenever you fucking make a point like this, is that actually just fucking get out of the way and let the people with the experience write this, and then that way,
Yeah.
you know, we can watch it and feel like actually we've gained an insight, and it isn't just like two guys' attempt at trying to write you know, into this subject matter. And I think, anyway. It's fucking
I think
fun.
we covered that reasonably well. I
Yeah,
don't think we.
it went a lot better than I thought it was gonna.
I don't think. I generally think we're fairly like know that we're idiots. Basically, I think is the overwhelming takeaway from anything we talk about.
Because we have
We're
more self
charming idiots.
We have more self-awareness than Matt Damon and Ben Affleck to know that
I knew you were going to say self-awareness. That's why I put charming in first.
Charming self-awareness.
Exactly. But I do want to talk about the orgy king of Normandy, because I feel like we haven't talked enough about the hair in this movie.
French fleck.
Does
French fleck. Avec noir fleck. Avec.
God.
Avec fleck.
Stop.
Neck fleck.
Does Ben Affleck think this is a? Did he write this and go, this is going to be a great Monty Python remake. This is going to be.
Do you know what I think, Sam? He's like, guys,
What the fuck is he doing in this movie?
What if my character had discovered peroxide in the 14th century?
Do you think
he's high on meth?
Do you
He's
think
got this
Affleck
like
turned
bleach
up
blonde hair for reasons, and this goatee, and this like he looks like Goldmember from Austin Powers. I couldn't get away from it. He's got a lair where he just has orgies. He's got an orgy lair. And he wears nothing but a silk robe in the entire of this movie.
Maybe this is real. Maybe this is based on.
I absolutely believe noblemen act like this, but is it not so at odds with every other character? Even Adam Driver, who is like an active participant in his orgies, Adam Driver comes in, cracking, we're having sex with women, and he just takes his pants off, like. But it's at odds with everything else that Adam Driver's doing in the movie. It's at odds with Matt Damon, but at least Matt Damon he's this proper, like, very self-interested, like, I'm a knight, I'm an honourable, and we have the whole scene where he shouts at everyone to shut up when he's getting knighted, and then he's really upset when no one gives a shit.
No one cheers.
Yeah, but like, at least that. But the Adam Driver thing is he's quite stoic. He's quite sensible. He's quite methodical in everything he does. And then he's like, "Oh shit, orgy, fantastic!" And it's just like, who wrote this as a thing? Again, it doesn't connect well with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it's so wasted.
And we keep going back to it. We keep going back to it
because Driver's a good actor. I think he's one of the best young or youngish anyway male talents out there.
Do you know why? Do you know why? Because he's interesting to look at. I don't mean that he's good looking, because
no,
but interesting to look at in a way that you can confuse with being good looking.
He's obviously in Star Wars, but as he's in Girls as well, which a TV series, Lena Dunham TV series, which is very good. And I think I get so many pieces here where you go, wow, really? If you just maybe thought about this a little bit further, we might actually be at a point where we could Just stop
Do you think maybe
thinking
it was a
about the
little bit
movie
sort of
and just get on with.
underbaked as
Say
a
again.
movie, or do you think it was a bit overbaked as a movie?
I think it's overbaked. I think it's too much money put into it, and I think when you bring on board, when you've got Damon and Affleck and Ridley Scott and blah 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 blah, you're gonna get to a point where it is gonna get a lot more. Whereas if we just reduce the concept of this movie down to, yeah, you have because it's fucking cynical marketing, you have Affleck and Damon prominent in the posters and all that stuff, but really it's a story about Jodie Comer and about the impact of what happened here, and more scenes of her fucking collecting rent or whatever. It's fine, like just make her the center of the movie.
Do we want to, before we wrap up, do we want to talk about the metaphor scene, Sam?
Oh, this is the worst scene in the movie. This is the worst scene.
Because I know you had to take a moment earlier in the podcast. You had to go.
I really, honestly, I really nearly gouged my eyes out with a pen when this.
Even I
put the pen in my hand, pointing
I'll go
up.
so far as to say that I am not as sophisticated as you two fine gents. Even I was like, they kind of hit me over the head with this.
So the scene
of the metaphor.
Let me set it out. The scene is they're in the stables, and there's a white horse which is like a fucking great,
pristine
mare. She's got a great lineage, blah blah blah, and then in comes this fucking black stallion who mounts
looks like Adam Driver. Almost has Adam Driver written on the side of it.
Don't spoil it, Dave. And then Matt Damon is then hitting the black horse, saying, "No,
the shit up with a belt or something.
She's not for you. She's not for you because I want to mate her with a belt." And I'm just like, fuck me. I challenge you to think of a more egregious and heavy-handed metaphor that you could possibly put into this film.
It's another example of this movie just stopping dead, though, to like fucking say prove a point.
What are we doing? Fuck are we doing? And I just think, to me that sums up a lot of this movie. I feel we're getting to the end. It sums up so much of this movie in that you're like, you're left to pick up the pieces of what's what's presented to you. You're given all of this shit. Fucking Adam Driver, Matt, catch it. Here's Jodie Comer coming. Oh, but it's fine. We won't see her very much. There's all of these like themes and ideas and stuff, all just thrown at you, not once but 3 times, and you have to just basically catch it all and like and assemble it in your head. And that's the point where I just think you need to simplify your concept for this film. Get rid of the 3 takes and just give us a strong story. Give us a strong story I can care about.
Yeah,
fuck me.
Or just like adapt it better. It really annoys me, and it's annoyed me lately, especially with John Carter, even that we did last time. Like, an adaptation should be an adaptation. It shouldn't just be like a beat for beat remake of the thing you're basing it on. Like, there's a reason they call it an adaptation, is because you take a book, which is a very distinct like form of media based on a fucking 600-year-old event. But like, you take a book and then you adapt it, because a book isn't necessarily like written to be a film. There are different treatments. There are things that you can do in a book that you can't do in a film. You can expect the reader to fill in a lot of the gaps, when in a movie you really have to do a lot of that work yourself.
We discussed this in the Da Vinci Code episode.
Exactly, because it feels like every time we've done an adaptation lately, it just kind of like falls flat because they haven't done the work to adapt it. So we have the 2 things I want to mention about the rest of this movie. One was like the king. They're going for a real Joffrey vibe in this king.
Was it Charles the Fourth or something? Is it
something like that? And he was sort of about 30 when the events of this film happened and stuff. But he's giggling. He's playing it like he's about 12, and it's a real like, hey guys, nudge nudge. Do you remember Game of Thrones? Yeah. Do you?
Very cynical, isn't it? Yeah.
Which was a bit much. Like, he's giggling at the duel at the end.
Charles VI, nicknamed the Beloved, known for his mental illness and psychotic episodes that plagued him throughout his life. Well, I'm going to save this
maybe
Wikipedia
it's just
article for later. This is that's
wonderful.
fun.
Psychotic episodes by the French King. Fantastic. That's Sam Bingo.
So rare.
The duel at the end is so laden with like the finish him trope, where both of these guys have an opportunity to kill the other one like 18 or 19 times each. And it's like, why haven't you killed him? You know that there's no amnesty. One of you is fucking dying in this pit. Why does it have to be you?
I skipped ahead. I completely didn't watch any of this. I just
this
you
is
like
where
this duel at the end?
this is where well, this is what I'm going to say. This is where we're going to have to like sort of argue a point with you two lads on this, because I actually thought the duel itself was brilliant to watch.
Don't get me wrong, I really like the duel, Ross.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, fair enough. Then Sam just needs to
I'll just say one thing. I'm not averse to duels. Violence, fine.
I like gratuitous violence as much as the next guy.
I'm more interested when I give a shit.
Except he doesn't.
I'm more interested when I give a shit.
But see, this is the thing, though. But yeah, it's fair. But because both of them are cunts, I'm kind of like, I want them both to die. But I was also thinking, if they cheapen this by because at one point Matt Damon gets stabbed in the leg, and you hear Affleck's character say, "Oh, he might bleed out yet." I'm like, if he kills Adam Driver and then he drops dead after the fight, and they're both dead, I'll be pissed off. You know what I mean? Don't put this in a pretty little box for me.
Except I googled the fucking real life events and was like, "Oh right, I see." So Matt Damon wins. Great.
But and fair enough, Sam, if you don't care. But I found this a really enjoyable scene. I even found myself I was sort of tensing up, because I thought some of the blows would be the final blow. So yeah, I mean, it didn't save the movie, but absolutely, it was a wonderful thing to watch.
Fair enough.
I like it.
The horse and head was
well
good.
paced. What I'm saying is that even though I think the action was well paced and it was fun and it was good to watch, and I like the little touches, like the half helmets, which obviously don't exist in the real world because that's where you'd be hit, but so that you can see the faces, so we can actually have some. Do you know what I mean? So we can actually have some acting in this scene as well. I think it's a fantastic choice. I love how they are battering the shit out of each other, but it's plate armor again, so makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just occasionally it's finish him. I'd be really motivated to kill this fucking guy.
He's ready in 10 minutes. It's Turkey Drummers. Come on, guys, wrap it up.
So does anyone have anything else? Because I have a quote from Ridley Scott about the movie, because fucking auteur directors and their
good lord,
arseholey
Let's have it. So first of all, I feel like I've channeled my inner Dave now. I've hit the microphone about 5 times, and I've hit my laptop about 3 times.
It's more difficult with the screen.
Enjoy that, listener.
You can catch it really easily.
I'm talking with my hands. I'm like, no, you shut up, Dave, pointing at the screen. What does auteur mean?
It's just an influential director, I suppose. You maybe direct more intellectual movies. So you it's Scorsese, Ridley Scott.
All right, fair. Yeah, go ahead. Give us the quote.
It's someone
Sam might have an actual definition.
Well, it's about having control, isn't it? It's they have control. It's their vision. It's their singular vision.
Stanley Kubrick is or Hitchcock
as opposed to a collaborative director who brings in other ideas and let's see what the director photographer
or
thinks,
a shit
blah,
director
blah, blah.
like Michael Bay.
Yeah, so they are the ones.
Director.
Ridley Scott is one. The guy who did The Shining is
Scorsese, Kubrick.
Yeah,
Hitchcock to an extent.
Okay, gotcha. Go ahead.
White guys.
Sorry, I throw the term around because it's become a popular term, which I think gives a lot of these directors a lot of props they maybe don't fucking deserve.
Carte blanche.
Tell us his quote then.
So basically, Sir Ridley Scott, to be fucking clear, fuck you, Sir Ridley Scott.
Keep focused, Dave. Keep going. Keep going.
So angry at old boomers still trying to fucking rule the world.
I'd expect me to get offended that, sir, he's not my sir. But
Ridley Scott's going to be dead by the time you get to this.
I could get on a whole republicanism thing right here, but I won't.
Say the quote.
It's not that podcast.
I want to go to
on why this movie had failed. He said Basically, he said that it was all to do with millennials letting the film flop because they didn't want to go and see it. Which again, I feel fucking personally attacked.
See,
Ridley Scott, you
my
fucking boomer
God.
piece of shit.
see, the
The
problem
thing,
is,
hang on, Sam. Like the thing is, though, that is such a fucking like it's an excuse anyway, but it's such a fucking like tired excuse. The millennials
wait for the
are
quote, Rob,
ruining
wait for the
the
quote.
diamond industry. Millennials are ruining fucking avocado toast. The millennials, like
I
we
think we
millennials
can
have
ruin the
fucked.
diamond industry. I think it's fine. Let's just cancel the diamond industry.
See,
Oh no!
Anyway,
However,
let me
we're
read the
doing
quote. Let me
diamonds
read
no,
the
no, no,
quote.
no, no, no. You're
Plays-
not reading the quote
It
yet.
plays
We're going to
directly
drag it
into
out.
what you're going to say, right? He said, "What we've got today are the audiences who were brought up using these fucking cell phones. The millennial who do not ever want to be taught anything unless you're told it on a cell phone." And it's like, fuck you. This is not an informational year 10 fucking film teaching me about medieval France.
Right. So the problem is that millennials, I think they need to update their terms because millennials, we're in our 30s and
We aren't
40s
going to
now,
a cinema.
guys.
We haven't got any money.
This is the problem. We're not going to see fucking movies because number one, you want me to go to a different building to watch a film? Do you have any idea how unbelievably inefficient that is? Moving on. Number two, we don't have any money. We're not fucking. We haven't. What, going
Because
to
they've got all
cinema?
the money.
Yeah, it's because of rich old fucks like you that we do not have the finances to be going and doing
And that's also
entertainment.
probably why, like, it's such a difficult industry to break into, is because arseholes like Ridley Scott are in their mid 80s, are so out of touch that, like, they're making these movies and these statements, and that's just that is taking the job away from somebody younger who is coming into the industry.
Yeah, and it's the same with Damon. It's the same with Affleck, and
Scorsese had a big thing where he basically, when The Irishman came out, which is a terrible movie, that's
Yeah.
nearly 4 hours long, but like, again, like, fucking go back to your nursing home, you old fuck. A man whose films, like, of all the auteur directors, I
a
think
defining.
Goodfellas and Casino and The Departed are some of my favorite movies. As a director who I love, but sit the fuck down. And he attacked Marvel movies as like, which is fair again, but like he attacked Marvel movies and things and basically saying that like it's ruined cinema and it's blah 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 and it's done all this and done all that. And I'm like, obviously you're so like distanced from, you grew up, you were making movies in the 70s, like, which is not that far removed from like everyone's going out to see the new Elvis Presley movie. Are you really telling me that that series of movies is better than the Marvel movies that we're now watching? Like, and it's somehow that's
No,
just how
Dave.
cinema works. But
No,
it's
Dave.
this entitlement that you can get on your little soapbox because you've got all the money in the world and you're a respected director, a respected white man, and you can just fucking tell people that they're
Let me
wrong.
tell you.
Like,
Let me tell you. No, Dave. It's the children who are wrong, and that's how it goes. Thank you, Simpsons.
Principal Skinner, you've done it again.
You basically, Skinner. Like,
sorry,
that's
I
where
didn't expect to get so hot on that.
No,
was-
because
I was
you
into it.
myself.
you're
I was into
completely
it.
right. You're completely right, and this is the problem with like these movies that insist upon themselves, Lois. It insists upon itself, and what we're left with fucking. You bet you need to work for this. You need to work for this movie, and if you don't get it, it's because you haven't worked hard enough. And it's
Exactly.
like, no, who's gonna go see this film for fucking fun, for entertainment on a Saturday night? Like, no one's gonna do that. That's why it failed. And
it's
yes,
the
it's
same
because of
with-
the pandemic, but also fuck you, Ridley Scott.
It's the same with all these like influential directors. There's a podcast called Blank Check, which is named after the movie, which I think was our first episode.
Yes.
Blank Check. That's a lost episode, and it'll stay lost. And what they do basically is they'll do like Stanley Kubrick films, and they'll sit and they'll watch over the course of 6 weeks. They'll watch 6 Stanley Kubrick movies, and they'll talk about them in relation to. And the idea
Good Lord.
is that it's basically these directors who've had a big movie. Robert Zemeckis, when he made Back to the Future, who've had a big enough movie that basically any studio will just basically essentially write them a blank check to do any movie because it's Ridley Scott, because it's James Cameron, because it's Martin Scorsese, because it's Stanley Kubrick, because it's Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of whether that movie would be good, and quite frequently they're not. And it's always interesting to know that basically, like, anytime one of these idiots makes a passion project, it's usually pretty bad. It's usually pretty indulgent, and this movie is quite indulgent. and it's usually a bit disrespectful of the audience as well, because it's more about what they're trying to shove down your throat as opposed to like what they think will be a marketable and good movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's so damaging to the film industry, because it, do you know what it does? It fatigues me as a movie viewer. And like, I would go out to the cinema and watch things, but you know, I don't want to be just like
Tell what it is.
sold
To-
the bill of
to
rights
conclude.
every single time I go to the cinema.
To conclude, the fucking these millionaire capitalists are absolute. Oh well, the market says, the market says, the market says, until the market says, "Fuck you, your film is shit," and then it's, oh, these millennials, they don't know what this good for. Suck a dick. This is what happens, and this is the fucking game. This is the game. Your movie's shit. Move on. There we go.
Exactly.
What do we, Ross? Now you've grasped the concept of what we're doing. Can we please, for the love of
You mean the
Christ,
podcast in general, or
well, just life? Can we please?
Show up.
I need a movie next week that has a literal pie thrown in it. I need to have something lighter. I can't.
I'll tell you what. I
regret
Ross,
John
before you
Carter.
recommend a movie without researching it. It has to be a
regret
box
this.
office bomb.
I'm not asking.
I said, go on, Tom.
Well, I'm not asking for suggestions right now. What I'm just when you're going into your cave and coming out with
Where you live with your family.
the next, yeah,
The Fortress of Swolitude.
please just make it. I just can't. I can't do any more movies like this. It's damaging my mental health. Please, God, please.
There's a lot of pressure. I feel like we've been like, again, we're still doing the podcast. I think we've all been fairly on edge this week, probably for very different reasons. But like, it feels like everyone's been quite like
Bit snippy.
This was an
me and
angry
Sam
cast.
especially, like both kind of like quite passive aggressive all week, and it's been like, oh,
Well, I think Sam's.
you know when you know you're being
quite...
a cunt, but you also know the other guy's being a cunt.
Actually, I take it back.
And you
Yeah,
know that
Sam's
they
been
know that they're being
passive-aggressive.
cunt.
You've been overtly aggressive. Dave.
Yeah, aggressive.
Passive. Hey,
But that's
I just wanna
okay.
do the whole-
Eat
I just
shit
wanna
and
do
die,
the
Ross.
mental health check-in. Are we all okay?
Yeah.
You know,
But will be. Well, if I can watch a movie next week that has a pie thrown in it, it's very simple. Someone throw a pie.
obviously he says his eyes are fucking dark black pits.
I will accept someone being sprayed by a comedy water flower. Okay, that's all. I'll accept that as well.
You want to be careful, Sam, because Ace Ventura is on Netflix.
Oh shit!
But it's not a
Run,
box office
no!
bomb, so we're safe. We're
Run!
safe.
There are worse things. that is Ventura. Trust me.
Oh god.
Yeah, Ace Ventura too.
I'll
The ones
I'll
with
say
all,
this
one with
little
all the
snip- I'll
transphobia.
say this little
That's right,
snip
and the
then we'll-
rhino. That's right.
We'll wrap it up. I remember years ago, like Dave, you know me. I'm a wrestling fan, big fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Wrestling.
wrestling, and
It's
more
Big Boss Ross.
more relevant, The Rock. And there was a movie that was just coming out. It had just come on to DVDs, movies, blah blah, streaming, and it was The Tooth Fairy. And I was like, "This is what we're watching." That was, you're talking 8 years ago. My wife has not let me forget. Sam's Googling it now. It's fucking, man. Even me, who will watch literal fucking shit dry, this I could not.
Do you know what, Ross? It's one of my favorite things about your wife is just that she holds you to account for the shit that you
I don't
watch.
like. Funny enough, I don't like that.
Someone needs to. Somebody needs to be there and say with a fucking list and be like, Ross, this is too much. This is too much.
No.
I can't do this anymore. We're getting
This
a divorce if we hit 20 of these. That's it. Divorce time.
I find I'm at my peak when I don't have consequences.
I think you need those boundaries, Ross. I think
that's a
I think
scary
I'm
place
fine.
to
I
be.
think the world is a better place when you have that boundary.
Yeah, and
You know, I'm
I'm firing
unfortunately,
on cylinders.
unfortunately, the Tooth Fairy is not streaming. So damn it.
Probably
There we
also made loads of money.
If it ever
upsettingly.
does, we should watch it just because of how awful it is. There's a scene that stands out, and I feel like
Ross,
it's been in.
I really think I know how bad it is just based on I remember seeing the artwork for it. Not the artwork,
There's,
but like
there's
the
a
posters.
scene between The Rock and Steve Merchant where they're trying to, like, like the funny
Get
quips
out
you'll
of my
see back
movie,
and forth
Stephen Merchant.
between, say, Will Ferrell and another comic actor, and you'll be like, oh, that's funny, fucking Steve Carell or whatever, you know, this quippy back and forth, you know, like, oh, that's funny. It's them trying to do that, but neither of them are funny.
But it's Stephen Merchant with all the charisma of a fucking carpet in a working men's club and Rock. I don't mean to be rude to Stephen Merchant. I think he's a very funny man.
Reference, that is.
He is not a good actor. Like,
No.
he is a Ricky Gervais level actor where, you know, he's really funny as a writer and middle.
Well, anyway, you go and think about whatever crap movie we're watching next. Listener,
Are we
please
having the
pray
quiz,
for us.
Sam, or are we?
No, I
are
can't
we
be fucked. I'm
following
just,
the Mulligan
I'm
quiz?
done. I'm done with the 13th century. I'm done with this movie. Get the fuck out of here and just someone throw a party, please, God.
What a way to end it. I'm done with the 13th century.
Again.
Like we're Bill and fucking Ted.
Are we all? And by that I mean specifically Sam. Okay, you don't look okay, man. You don't look okay.
City's a dying whore. I'm a dying whore.
Sam's a dying whore.
Sam's a dirty dying bitch lying in the
See you next
gutter.
week.
Amazing. Right,
I
I'm
think we
hitting
handled
stop.
that reasonably